Okay, so we're working on the van again today in the engine bay. Major problem, the brakes basically seized up on me the other day where I couldn't push the pedal down, and it was really hard to stop at low idle, which would lead me to believe that it's the vacuum pump. After some initial research, it seems like that's going to be the problem. After a while, those go out. You don't get any assist to the master cylinder, and braking becomes next to impossible. So it's a really important fix. Need to get this done so that I can even drive it again. So let's go ahead and get into it. Probably wants to help too. So as many of you know, it's a 2003 E350 7.3 diesel. And getting in here, the vacuum pump is right here. And it goes to this junction box, which goes to, I believe this goes to your control module for switching like the vents and stuff like that. There's one that goes down below the distribution box where there is a low vacuum sensor. And then this goes to your actual vacuum pump, and then off of this hub, this goes into your master cylinder there. And that's what allows the assistance with the braking. So first thing, you got to get the air box off, which just take that inlet hose off, and then I believe everything else is kind of inside of here. I need new filters too. Okay, so we'll get this off, pull that off. Okay, so there's just like a hose clamp type deal here. Pull that back, get it out of the way. This whole thing kind of pops up and out. Just a giant tear in the gasket, no big deal. Okay, so this might not be completely necessary to pull that off, but I figured it'd just be easier to get this hose off. But 2 bolts here, and then there's like these Phillips head clips. So for these 2 bolts here, here's a 5/16. Looks like they didn't actually go overseas for these for once. That could have been bad. So then you can see here, it's just these little Phillips clips, which you have to hold that washer into place. Otherwise it just spins in place. It's like a plastic. Missing one over here. I've noticed there's a lot of missing hardware on this. Someone's definitely been through it. So there should be 4 up front here. You might need help like lifting into the bottom of the screw as you unscrew. Just use a small screwdriver for that. Okay, so one there, one's supposed to be there, there, and there. And then you just kind of pry these up with a screwdriver. See what pops out. Don't lose these. And last but not least is these 2. You might have noticed is this beautiful fix right here. This wasn't me. There's like a break in the top side of the inlet. The guy I was buying it from said it was about $500 for that part. Who knows? Makes sense though. So I might redo that tape on there. Just looks like regular duct tape. I can feel the hole right there. So once I pull that off, I might clean that up and take that off too. sensor. Okay, now we're down in the nitty-gritty of it. Probably use a new fucking belt too. Now we just gotta find the tensioner and get that loosened up so we can pull the belt off. So you can see it just makes it a little bit easier to access this belt, which we gotta take off. So next we gotta get the belt tensioner. So I've got a breaker bar, and it's a 1/2 inch breaker bar, and there's a slot where you put it in right on the top there, and you pull towards the passenger side, and then you can pull the belt. Try not to cut my fucking fingers off. I'm just gonna slip it over that belt. Try and keep it where I can see it. And I had to come in behind these two lines here. Look who it is. Okay, so I just sprayed some penetrant down in there on each of those bolts. Trying to figure out the best course of action for that one that's tucked down in there. That one's gonna be tough. I'm just gonna have to barely get the tip of the wrench in on that one. You can just see it off to the corner right there. Really buried. Okay, for this one, which is buried way down in there, you're gonna want a long offset closed 10mm, because without it you gotta really jagger some stuff. Now you can barely see it down in there. It's like right there. So what I did, I had a short, and I took that end and put it on there, forced it on, kind of held it in place. And then once I had that on there, I actually took a ratchet, which is conveniently a 10, and I put it on there, and you can kind of adjust where you want it to be to get leverage. So it's tight in there, so you might have to just kind of change that around, and then as you pull down you get more leverage in a longer piece. So working with what I had is the only way I could figure out how to do it. Okay, I just broke that last one free. How I'm ever going to tighten those the same torque spec that they were is impossible, but once I get the new part I'll get a little bit better wrench. I'd use the ratchet and the 10mm again. It actually is a little more space in there. You just got to kind of cram your hands down in. And I've got those all broken loose now. And sorry I can't film everything. Like, it's such tight quarters, I don't think I can get you guys down in there very easily. I could go get the GoPro, but even then I'm not guaranteeing that I'm seeing everything that I'm able to see. And honestly, instead of taking this off here, I'm going to take it off this juncture right here. It's a lot easier, and then the whole piece will come out. I should be able to snake that out and then pull the rest of these bolts out and get the whole part pulled. So this just has a little clip, and then you can twist this off. Don't break this part, because I don't know where the hell you find that these days. Okay, got that pulled off, so that's just kind of free floating there. Now just loosen up the rest of these bolts, and that whole piece should come out, and see how that goes. I don't even know which way I'm going to go with it yet. I think I'm going to have to come out up through this way. Alright, so got the vacuum pump out. As you can see, all these bolts don't clear this pulley. So that's actually something when you're buying the part, if you don't want to have to mess with pulling this actual pulley off and replacing that, either with this one or a new one. There are parts that actually come with the pulley all in there and the hardware in the right places as well, so it's a lot easier. Obviously a little more expensive, but probably worth it. I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do right now. When I brought it out, I kind of just twisted it back up towards me, and it came out pretty well past all the brake lines and everything like that. So I mean, all in all, fairly easy, but it's still producing vacuum. Like, you can hear it making the, like, it's definitely moving air, and when I put my finger on the end, I can feel it creating vacuum. But that's how you get it out. Okay, so you can buy these parts with or without the pulley. I went without just because it was really hard to pick online from the parts that are available nowadays. A lot of them don't get good reviews. I did get this part from AutoZone just because it has a limited lifetime warranty, so if it goes out I can get it replaced. And in this case I do need to replace the pulley, so I rented this pulley remover from AutoZone. So in this case there's this lip here and there's this coupler. This will go inside here, and these couplers will attach around here. So get this put on. Okay, that sleeve in there, and then you start creating tension. So I got tension there. So now I gotta get a couple wrenches. So I've got a 5/8 on this side, and I'm just looks like it's coming off. Got a crescent wrench on this side, and that's just creating pulling tension on that pulley. You can see it's starting to come off there. There you go. Sweet. Well, that was supposed to happen. Okay, so that's how you remove it. Just gonna clean this up a bit. And we'll try and put this on. And before you put the pulley on, unlike I just did, like an idiot, is you gotta put the hardware back in. Now I can do this for a second time. So now I got the hardware in, and just gonna tighten this down here again. Make sure you got a good bite on the back side into the shaft with this bolt, just to make sure you have good contact in the threads. You get the pushing power that you need here. Thread that on tight. That off. Take this out. Okay, now it's ready to go in the van. Put this vacuum line on. All right, let's go put it in the van. Okay, I'm gonna try and get this on video the best I can. Just gotta remember. Nice thing is you don't lose your hardware. Okay. Slip that in past the brake lines. Spin it. I'm not gonna put it around the belt yet. I'm gonna slot it in. And you can hand tighten these bolts pretty easily. They actually came out really easily just by hand. So I can get these started. And if you need, you can pull the whole unit out while you get the bolts started. Just helps you see behind them. Don't know if you'll be able to see. I can barely just see the damn thing. I think I have to reach under and around. Okay. Alright, got that bottom one started. I highly doubt you'll be able to see that, but there's just no other way for me to get this in but to cover up everything. And then there's one down on that corner edge there. So I'm gonna get those in. There's no way I can really film this, and then we'll tighten those up. And it helps if you can kind of lift the whole unit up while you're hand tightening these bolts in, just to take some of the weight off of them. And without being able to hand tighten these, I mean, it would take a long time to get these in, because basically you just need to use a regular wrench. I've got the ratcheting wrenches, so it'll at least make it like snugging up a little bit better, but just to get these tied in initially takes a little bit of doing, especially this bottom one. Luckily I have small arms, I can still barely get in there. Alright, got those snugged. Now do our best not to round them off. Okay, got that in there. So now I got to put the belt back on. And just a trick when you're doing this is the pulleys where the belt goes over the top is going to have the ridges. And then obviously I'm going to need to pulling the tensioner, and then I usually have been putting this one underneath last. Okay, so we got the belt put back on here. Runs underneath that vacuum pump pulley. Down and around, I got that all set in place. Everything seems to be in order. So now we got to get it below this pulley here. So I got my 1/2-inch breaker bar set up in the tensioner down here. And you don't always need a big shaft to get the job done, but in this case, the bigger the better. So let's get this back tension down here. Okay. Try not to take my fingers off. Put that underneath. Everything looks lined up. Yeah, looks like we're good to go. So, get all the intake back on, the sensor plugged in, and then that vacuum line put back on this post here. Put this back on. And then we got just this clamp here. Just working with what we have here. There's a lot of tools I wish I had, but I make do. It's a vacuum anyways. You know, is this clamp really necessary? Okay. Everything's all set up there. Okay. Get all intake put back on. I got the rag in here, so don't forget to take that out. Don't forget to plug your sensor back in. I'm sure it would tell you if you forgot in a very crude Ford type of way. Alright, let's fire it up, see how the brake pedal feels. Feels less stiff. Yeah, it feels like a world of difference. I wonder too, because all these work off a vacuum too for switching, and it was only just setting on defrost, so I wonder. Doesn't feel like it, so that'll be a whole nother fix, I'm sure. But let's go take it out on the road and see how it does. Alright, and already I can tell at low idle the brakes are working so much better. I mean, I need new pads and rotors. But before, when I was, coming down the mountain, or when I first noticed it in this parking lot of Safeway, I mean, I was literally idling into a parking space and I couldn't stop. So now it's fully engaging. The brake isn't super stiff. I mean, I would say that's a success. So I think that did the trick. I mean, I hope this vacuum pump lasts as long as the factory one did, at least what I assume was the factory one. And that lasted about 200,000 miles. I've read some reviews on these. They're not great, but there's not a lot of options. OEM is pretty hard to find. I mean, you can try to check through junkyards and stuff. Like, I looked around the area, there's just nothing. So, went with AutoZone just for the warranty. Goes bad, you know, is what it is. I'll probably just keep the old one on hand just because it's so pertinent to be able to use the brakes, and at least it works a little bit. If the bearing freezes up on this or something crazy like that, at least I have a backup, and I know I could likely do it, you know, if I was stranded somewhere. So keep you guys updated, but seems like that should do the trick. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully that helps someone out. It's super scary when your brakes go out. I had no idea before I got into this, you know, just how pertinent that vacuum pump is to the whole system. I wasn't even really familiar with it, so I'm glad it was a relatively easy fix. You know, being able to rent the puller from AutoZone for nothing was great, and it was an accessible part considering that these vans are super hard to work on just because everything's so buried usually in the engine compartment. So hope you guys liked it. We'll see you on the next one. Probably having to do some more mechanical things in the near future. Probably rotors, pads, ball joints. So thanks. See you guys.